So the other day, I'm scrolling through the Singularity subreddit and a headline jumps out at me. They're talking about something shocking and stunning that happened today in the world of AI. Now, of course, I click on it, and what they revealed in there shocked me to my core. We'll come back to that in just a bit. But in other news, Figure is making the headlines once again. We've already talked about the massive amounts of money that it's raising from NVIDIA, Jeff Bezos, Microsoft, OpenAI, etc. In addition, OpenAI and Figure signed a collaboration agreement to develop next-generation AI models. Here's OpenAI. OpenAI plus humanoid robots. We're collaborating with Figure Robot to expand our multimodal models to robotic perception, reasoning, and interaction. Now, again, we already knew that there's a lot of money going into this company from the big players. But here's the new plot twist, if you will. So Figure will leverage Microsoft Azure for AI infrastructure, training, and storage. We are excited to partner with OpenAI and Microsoft to bring embodied AI to the real world. And they're saying that this investment from these big firms, as well as the added support from Microsoft, Azure, OpenAI, this will ramp up Figure's timeline for humanoid commercial deployment and will be used for AI training, manufacturing, deploying more robots, expanding engineering headcount, advancing commercial deployment efforts. Here's February 2024. This is the robot. This is what that looks like. So you can see it here, picking up a box, walking around. So he's carrying an object. This, I gotta say, is an incredibly good demonstration of its abilities. The coffee maker demo was a little bit hard to tell how complicated that was. This is definitely a lot more compelling. They're saying that this is fully autonomous. So there's no teleoperation, there's no pre-scripted movements. Now, Jeff Bezos has been pouring a lot of money into robotics, not just from kind of the Amazon fund, the Amazon side, but also through other investment arms of his as well. So Bezos Expeditions is one of them. And so this Amazon Industrial Innovation Fund is a $1 billion venture investment program that's putting money into supporting robotics. But definitely Figure is the one that a lot of people are buzzing around. There's definitely a lot of attention on it. And the fact that OpenAI is going to help develop the models behind it, and Microsoft will use Azure to kind of power a lot of the AI infrastructure, training and storage. This kind of seems that Figure is now the de facto OpenAI robot, the GPT robot. In a previous video, we talked about how OpenAI seemingly is building AGI, not as one thing, but rather in pieces. These pieces that will come together to become one thing. There's a similar concept in these card games, right? Where you have one part representing an arm, a leg, the torso and head, etc. Together, when you get all of them on the board, then the big thing sort of emerges. So each of these things has its own use, its own stats, it's its own thing. Combined, it kind of merges into this greater thing. And that's kind of my take on how OpenAI seemingly is building the AGI pieces. OpenAI focused more of its efforts on building autonomous AI agents. Peter Wellender, OpenAI's vice president of product, remarked on X that the product Newhouse described will change everything. This thing that will change everything, that really seems to be this autonomous agentic structure that they're developing right now. Call it this arm of AGI. At the same time, they're developing a web search product, probably something similar to Perplexity, that may or may not be part of sort of ChatGPT. It might be its own standalone thing. We, of course, seen Sora, OpenAI's video model, capable of producing some pretty stunning footage that's almost near lifelike at this point. Here's a paper out of China just recently published. Sora generates video of stunning geometrical consistency. Stunning, they say. These are Gen 2 and Pika, the other two text-to-video AI platforms, probably the most exciting ones up until now. And here, this massive, massive thing is Sora, right? It's this massive pentagon that's maxing out all the abilities that it's measured on. Speaking of pentagons, or I guess in this case, a hexagon. But why is the North Pole on Saturn a hexagon? It's a persistent hexagonal cloud pattern around the North Pole of the planet Saturn, the size of which is longer than the diameter of Earth. Probably nothing, right? But back to Sora, it's significantly better than everything else out there. Now, Google recently announced their model, Lumiere, so I'd be curious to see how that compares to Sora, but so far we don't have access to them. So here they're talking about Gaussian splatting renderings. Gaussian here you can think of as like little units from which the image is made, so like pixels on a screen, but instead of like 2D pixels for 2D space, we're using kind of a 3D representation. So in computer graphics, right, in video games, oftentimes we use triangles to represent various scenes, to represent various 3D models. So here, instead of triangles, it's Gaussians. Here's kind of what that looks like. This border is just for clarity, but it's basically made up of the position, like where it is, covering, so how it's stretched over some distance, color, and how transparent it is. So here's multiple Gaussians drawn at once. God, I hope I'm pronouncing that word right. Now, what do you think 7 million Gaussians would look like? Well, here, that's what it would look like. Here's how that would look like if they're kind of more fully opaque. But what's the point? Well, the point is we can make scenes like this. We can create 3D scenes where everything is kind of rendered on screen. We're able to float around, zoom in, zoom out. It's able to render these 3D spaces kind of from images. You can give it a 2D image and it's able to kind of try to recreate that 3D space. But Pika and Gen 2 don't really produce great results when this technique is used to kind of render that scene in 3D. There's a limited reconstruction scope, which suggests that Pika and Gen 2, they kind of have a poor understanding. Those models have kind of a poor model of the 3D space. They don't really get how it works. Sora, on the other hand, seemingly does. Here's, for example, that coast. As you can see here, that 2D image that Sora renders is easily made into a 3D Gaussian sort of 3D space. Splats, as they're called. Here's another example. As you can see, like the buildings kind of remain consistent, and I mean, you can tell what you're looking at. You can see the different levels of elevation that are shown in the image. Here's an example of that sort of western town, I think it was. So as you can see here, as we're kind of floating through it, I mean, you can see 3D space, you know, where the mountains are, where the buildings are, where the little creek is. Here's that sort of museum scene, right? So the important thing to understand is that the videos that Sora generate, yeah, I mean, they're 2D images, right? Or pixels in a 2D plane. But when we try to recreate the 3D space, we're able to recreate a lifelike, realistic, accurate 3D space. And of course, if you've been following up what's happening with Sora behind the scenes, you kind of, this is not a surprise, right? Because it's not just a little video producing machine, it's a world simulator. Here they match sort of the geometric consistency between two views. Red represent discarded matching results. Green represents high quality matches. Sora is really good. Gen 2 and Pika not so much. Pika seems to be really good at keeping its logo in the same place. And this paper points out that this newly developed Sora model has exhibited remarkable capabilities in video generation, sparking intense discussions regarding its ability to simulate real-world phenomena. Their point is we don't really have established metrics to evaluate its fidelity. How well does it create the real-world physics, the 3D spaces, etc.? Again, the reason I bring this up is because I think people who think of Sora as just video generation might be missing the bigger picture. It's more accurately something like a world simulator, like a physics simulator. But instead of something like an Unreal Engine where we kind of explicitly tell the engine, we program the engine to create something, some 3D structure, or whatever other physics engine might be used in video games where we specifically kind of coded what needs to be done, Sora's soft physics simulation is an emergent property. It learns implicitly the various things it needs to create those scenes, 3D transformations, ray trace renderings, and physical rules. So that's yet another part of sort of OpenAI's pieces of AGI, which again, some of OpenAI's employees kind of hinted at this, but still this is kind of like conjecture, right? But if you're looking at what they're doing, it certainly seems like they're like collecting all the various pieces. And then Sam Altman's quest to build much more compute, much more various GPUs and other chips that are needed to power all the AI services that we're going to need, right? We've heard that $7 trillion figure quoted. Recently, he came out and he kind of explained that that's probably the number that the entire world, all of the countries will need to invest over a period of however many years, right? To build up the infrastructure and that whole entire sort of tech stack that we need to produce everything that we need. So not just chips, but everything that we need to sort of fully deploy all the AI services that we want to have, right? So that might be this piece. Then the much awaited GPT-5, let's say that's the head and torso. So the rumors are that it will be able to automate a lot of work. It will be smarter and better. It's not going to be this revolutionary thing that will change everything, right? But it will be another powerful leap forward for those models. And if you've played around with advanced data analytics, you can imagine what that might look like for, I mean, anything you can do with Excel, a lot of programming tasks, a lot of writing tasks, analytics, etc. I've mentioned OpenAI's Feather that they're still stubbornly refusing to let me in. So this is what that looks like, feather.openai.com. So you need a Feather account to continue, but what is it? Here's the trademark application for it. It's a systematic process, systematic service using automated labeling and annotation of images, audio, video, text, and various other forms of data. So I think it has something to do with, so this is Microsoft, an interactive agent foundation model. So Microsoft, Stanford, UCLA. But at the end here, they described this agent sort of providing synthetic data labeling of these pictures, right? So they show them a picture and it says, this is what's happening in that picture. The patient is awake and calm. So this is for medical data, for example. They also do it for Minecraft. What is happening in this frame of Minecraft? What do you think the next action will be? Here's another game that they're playing with. It's a multiplayer game, right? And the model predicts what's going to happen. And they're using GPT-4 with vision to create these descriptions. So here's a video, a many frame video from a game called Bleeding Edge. And we're asking GPT-4 with vision to give a simple but precise description of what the player is doing. And GPT-4 with vision outputs this. So it describes what the player is doing. It's running around, interacting with different checkpoints, fights against enemy players, and captures the objectives. So think about that for just a second. Here's a whole video that is completely sort of narrated by AI. The descriptions, the annotations are provided by AI. The only sort of human involvement is writing this prompt, right? How useful would this be across many different industries? To review security camera footage, to review what's happening in hospitals, to make sure that the doctors and nurses are doing the correct procedures. Not only that, but it creates really valuable data for training future AI models. For example, with Sora, it sounded like what they did is they used something like this, something very, very similar, to annotate a bunch of various videos that Sora was trained on. So they had a large amount of video, so they could have a human being sit there and kind of write, here's what happens in this frame, here's what happens in this frame, right? That would be slow, super expensive, might be not very accurate. Instead, GPT-4 goes through and annotates everything. Then that data, those pairs, right, the video and the description, that's given to Sora to train on. And now it's able to do sort of the opposite. Because before we give it video with text descriptions, and now we're able to give it just the text description and it'll spit out a video. It'll kind of make that video appear. So all of these pieces that OpenAI is building and collecting, not only is it going to be automating a lot of things that we do, helping people complete tasks faster, being more effective at work, but a lot of it also helps to build the next generation of AI models. But OpenAI has been kind of missing that final piece, the actual physical embodiment of AI in the world, aka robots. So this is from July 16th, 2021. OpenAI disbands its robotics research team. After years of research into machines, these hands that can solve a Rubik's Cube, for example, OpenAI said it shifted its focus to other domains where data is more readily available. So this is a piece that they were going after, but decided to not pursue it. By the way, since then, since 2021, I think this piece became more readily available. There's been a lot of progress on this front, I think it's fair to say. But now it seems like OpenAI and Microsoft both are pouring more of their resources, more of their talent, all the tech that they have available into Figure Robot. So OpenAI, they have entered into a collaboration agreement to develop the next generation AI models for humanoid robots, combining OpenAI research with Figure's deep understanding of robotic hardware and software, and Microsoft Azure for various AI infrastructure, training, storage, which kind of reminds me of this quote by Rune, Azure, the endless stretch of digital ocean where leviathans swim, the birthplace of AGI civilization. In other news, our ability to create deepfakes just got a whole lot better. Check this out. So this is the reference image, and that's the generated video. Here's that sort of image from Sora, right? Where the lady's walking down the streets of Tokyo. And here's, I believe, Mira Murati, a C-level executive at OpenAI.
We collaborate with, and maybe we have several of them, and maybe they all have different competences. And maybe we have a general one that kind of follows us around everywhere, knows everything about my context, what I've been up to today, what my goals are, sort of.
So I gotta say, that's pretty good. So they use a lot of popular music in this. So I'll link this page if you want to check it out, because the music is excellent. I can't show it, right? Because then I'll get hit with some copyright issues, but you kind of gotta see it to believe it. It's very accurate. It's really good. All right, so there's no way I can play this. But yeah, it's realistic video, it's realistic songs, very realistic speech.
The thing, you heard the term, don't cry. You don't need to cry.
Just from a simple image, which is really interesting because it captures her expression. Like that's a kind of a unique expression that she has, and translates it to that entire sort of speech that she's doing, the conversation.
Crying is the most beautiful thing you can do. I encourage people to cry. I cry all the time.
And basically what to me this means is you can create images like this in Midjourney of whatever characters you want and pretty much have full-blown videos, stories that revolve around them. And the paper behind this, so it's the Alibaba Group and the Institute for Intelligent Computing, and it's called Emote Portrait Alive, generating expressive portrait videos with audio to video diffusion model under weak conditions. And they're saying using a single reference image, so this is the reference image that you put in there, they can create any duration video depending on the size of the audio clip. So audio clip plus image is turned into any length video. So we don't have access to stuff like this yet, like we can't use it yet, but it's coming fast and it's probably very quickly going to be open source. In the paper, they actually mention in the related work they mention stable diffusion. So that's an open source model. So I feel like once people see what it's capable of, I mean, they kind of describe what they did here. So they talk about sort of what kind of data they've used, 250 hours of footage and more than 150 million images across multiple languages such as Chinese and English. I would not be surprised if we see something like this, either as a closed model with a monthly fee or perhaps even open source, maybe before the year is out. Pika Labs has this kind of lip sync technology right now, but this seems much, much better, much more accurate, able to run for longer periods of time. I mean, this to me is mind-blowing.
When I was a kid, I feel like you heard the term.
Like that looks like, footage shot in whatever year that was shot in, somebody doing an interview with just really high fidelity sound. So absolutely stunning. This isn't quite as good if you notice the lip movements.
Me watching takes the night.
But it's not bad. And keep in mind that this is probably difficult to replicate just because of the mascara and all that stuff. This is like near perfect reality. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but what was that shocked, stunning thing that you saw that you clicked on that was so crazy? Well, here it was, right? Shocked and stunned clickbait titles with my name on it. So my first thought was, I am become meme, shocker of worlds. And my second thought was, why aren't I Schwarzenegger in this image? But okay. So I just wanted to very quickly kind of touch on this just to give my perspective, because obviously this is becoming a meme. More and more people are sort of talking about it. The reason I was trying to kind of avoid talking about it is because I think that might actually make it worse. But I kind of just wanted to tell people what's going on behind the scenes. But okay, I'll try to explain what's happening. So a lot of you might have heard of Tim Ferriss. He was kind of one of the original tech influencers, I guess. His 4-Hour Workweek book was kind of groundbreaking at the time. But in 1999, he won the gold medal at the Chinese Kickboxing National Championship. While he had a martial arts background, he probably wasn't the best person at that championship. But what he did is he brought a technique that was fairly well known in the US in the wrestling and Taekwondo community. And the trick was that the weigh-ins were the day prior to the competition. So he used these dehydration techniques that, I mean, my understanding is it's very common in most martial arts competitions that you see on TV, for example. And so what he did was he lost 28 pounds in the 18 hours prior to weigh-in. So he clocked in at 165 pounds at the weigh-in and then showed up on the day of ready to fight at 193 pounds. So, of course, it's pretty hard to fight somebody from 3 weight classes above you. And then he proceeded to win by technical knockout and went home as the national champion. Now, what do you think of that? Would you say that he cheated? I mean, technically, everything was within the rules. Do you think what he did was unethical? Or do you think what he did was, disruptive and genius and wonderful? And does your opinion change if I tell you that this spurred most of the fighters in the future championships of this nature to start using those same techniques. It became the common practice. Now, different people will have different opinions about it, but there's actually a name for this in gaming. It's called the metagame. So basically, in essence, a meta in gaming terminology is the generally agreed upon strategy by the community. This strategy is considered to be the most optimal way to win and has the best performance at a specific task. Some people even said that it's an acronym for most effective tactics available. You've probably seen it if you've played games. Different seasons have different metas. League of Legends, Dota, and stuff like that. Different combinations of characters can be great for particular times. For example, this is James Altucher. So he used to be, I think he was like a grandmaster in chess as a kid, then stopped playing for a long time, came back as an adult. And so he's saying that it's really different now. I don't know if he used the word meta, but I think the reason why it's different now is the meta game has changed. A lot of it due to AI. AI unearthed new strategies, new ways of playing, and the new generation of chess players learn from that, and the game changes. With YouTube, there's sort of two parts of how content gets shared, distributed, recommended, etc. And the first is the title and thumbnail, so kind of the packaging, if you will, the cover of the content, right? And the second part is the actual video, kind of the long form content. And if you nail this and this, then your video does well. But if you mess up the title or your videos, or if you have a great title and your video kind of sucks, then it doesn't do too well. And I got to give credit to YouTube for this. I think their algorithm, while, maybe not perfect, is pretty good at serving up interesting stuff to watch, especially if you're interacting with it quite a bit, right? If you're clicking on videos and you're watching them over time, it figures out, okay, I know what you like. Here's some of the stuff that other people like that are similar to you. So I got to say, they do a pretty good job. And if you're on YouTube watching, I'm sure you can point out some issues with it, but I feel like overall they kind of nailed it. But here's the thing that I think people might not understand who are not in the sort of YouTube ecosystem. The people that make the videos, we have a lot of control over the content of the video. I can say or do pretty much whatever I want in the video, and as long as you like it, you get some value out of it, then it continues to get shared and shown across the network. Like if I sit here for an hour and draw like a little bear or something, right? And as long as you're enjoying that, Google's like, yeah, dude, whatever, that's fine. As long as people are watching, liking it, commenting, subscribing, you can do whatever you want within limits, obviously. But so here we have a lot of control over what we do, what we say, etc. But on this side, the title and thumbnail, not quite as much. We don't have as much control. Here, there's a very specific metagame. Why do you think all those YouTubers put those stupid YouTube faces on their thumbnails? Do you think it's because they love making these faces? Can't they just smile and make a normal face instead of this sort of face? Why is this popping up in my feed? Why does Mr. Beast, one of the top YouTubers, why does he have the same glazed over eyes and weird smile in every single video? Is because those little weird faces and whatnot, they'll pull a little bit more clicks, and that'll kind of tip the balance in favor of that video. It'll do a little bit better. And what happens if you don't play the game? Well, then Tim Ferriss comes along and just kind of manhandles you out of the arena. Those are the rules of YouTube, and they are unflinchingly rigid. Now, I wasn't the first to do those shock titles. I saw other people doing it, and it was extremely effective. And the reason that a lot of people are doing it, the goal isn't to deceive you or annoy you or anything like that. The goal is to just make sure the video gets seen. And these shocking titles is just a kind of this fun way to do that, to make sure that it gets out there. To the people that find that annoying, just understand that's the current meta. And it too shall pass, but then there's going to be another meta, and it's probably going to annoy you still, right? Maybe the next one will be us making those stupid surprised faces going, I can't believe this just happened, or whatever. But the point that I would like to make is this. For all the creators that you like, whether that's me or somebody else, the people that are informing, entertaining you, I just ask this, judge them on this, the long form content that they produce. That's what they have control over. That's what they make for you. You might notice I don't have too many sponsorships. I don't think I had a single sponsorship on this channel, right? I'm not pitching you a paid course. I'm not pitching you a paid Discord channel. My stuff is just 100% content. Would you like it better if these were, toned down, but I spent half the video pitching you some product? Probably not. So my take on this, and this is not just for AI, but anything else, for the people that you like what they do, the content, engage with that content. Judge it based on that long form content. This is what we make for you. This, the title and thumbnail, this is more like our lone little gladiator, right? It's this gladiator with a sword and shield, and we have to give it all the resources and equipment that it needs to go out there and fight all the other YouTube videos that have their thumbnails and titles. And if we make a boring thumbnail and a boring title, that's like sending this guy out there with no armor or weapons. It has no chance. It would break my heart to do that. So I arm them with the sword of shock and the shield of stun, and then send them out there to battle all the other YouTube videos. And this makes sure that the video that I made gets seen. It would break my heart to send them out there without equipment. So please do not ask me to. So to all the people that were super cool about this and just having a lot of fun with this, I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. To the people that maybe didn't like this so much, but were still kind of cool about it, I hope this kind of explains why we're doing it. It's not to be deceptive. It's just how the game is played. We're just giving our little guy the best chance to win. And I think just the best sort of thing that you can do is just judge us by the content, right? Don't judge the book by its cover, right? That old cliche, like just don't judge the video by the thumbnail. Those are two separate things. And to those of you that say that me using the word shocking in the title makes me the worst YouTuber you've ever heard of, I would just like to point out one thing. But you have heard of me. My name is Wes Roth, and thank you for watching.